Hi, everybody. It's time for Nature Adventures, the Star Nation's live stream show here on Be Live TV in Facebook land. I am your co-host, Minnie Kansman, along with my dear friend and co-host, Neshi Lokotz. And today, our Nature Adventures topic is Wintertime in Nature in the Winter, or Wintertime in Nature. And as Neshi and I were discussing this show and what we want to talk about, a question came up, which was, what do the fairies do in the wintertime? So we're going to be talking about that and a lot of other related topics. But let me bring Neshi up right now. There she is.
Hi, Minnie.
Yes. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I just got done running down the virtual hallway between my show and our show.
Yep, I was on it too for a little bit.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah, I can't wait to get into this topic because, when we had that chat about what are we going to do, and we were talking about winter, and you had said something about people always asking me, where do the fairies go in the winter? Let's talk about that.
Right.
Yeah. So, what are we going to do first?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to share is I asked the nature spirits this question, and I said, where do the fairies go in winter? And first they said, okay, we're not just fairies, we're nature spirits. So I wanted to describe that a little bit, explain that a little bit for people that might not quite understand that whole elemental realm. Mm-hmm. But there's overlighting devas, like the oak trees have an overlighting deva for all the oak trees that live on Gaia, that live on planet Earth here. But each oak tree will have its own individual nature spirit, sometimes called fairy. Okay, so I use the word nature spirit and fairy interchangeable. And nature spirits, there's 4 categories of nature spirits. The elementals, which work with the 4 elements of air, earth, fire, and water. So when I ask this question, they're like, well, it depends on who we are. But they said when I first asked, they said, well, you think we don't have anything to do, but there's lots of work to be done. They said for the fun, they go underground and watch and play with the crystals and watch the underground streams and the molten lava flows. It's very warm underground, a steady 55 degrees, but that really doesn't matter because it's still they don't care about temperature. Doesn't matter to them. The plants are tucked into their beds, fully alive, but in a much slower sleep phase, except for their roots. Lots of activity going on in the roots, gathering energy for the growing season. The seeds are underground and the earth's surface. There's tiny pinpoints of high energy balls. That's what they show me that the seeds were, high energy balls, just waiting for the warm weather and the signals that they should burst forth from their seed caves and coverings. The nature spirits of the earth, those are the elementals that are really living in the earth, are still building and growing great crystals and metal and tending to caves and underground waterways and pathways. And those are the elementals that are sometimes referred to as the trolls and the gnomes. The nature spirits of the water are very busy in the winter, playing on the earth's surface, providing us with water, rain, ice, snow, sleet, having a lot of fun with that creation. The spirits of the air are always in the clouds and playing with the northern lights in the winter, in our northern hemisphere at least, and the wind. And, in the winter, the elements of water and the elementals of the earth play with Jack Frost, and they do their little paintings with the Jack Frost. ice. And then in the spirits of the fire, they say, well, the sun is still always present, and you appreciate it more in the winter, and always still painting sunrises and sunsets. And so there's a lot going on in the wintertime. And I lost Neshi, but I bet she'll be back. There she is. Oh, you're here. Did you go down or up?
I don't know. I ended up down there somehow.
You're down there, but I
felt like one of those elementals you were talking about.
I don't know. Anyway, so there was a lot in that, a lot of information.
Yeah. And there's a lot going on beneath the surface that we don't see.
Yeah.
Many people maybe feel it, but we don't see it with our naked eye, right?
Correct.
With our eyes. Yeah.
Correct. Let me get back to the still driving here. Okay. Let me put this one up. And let me put me down for a minute.
Okay. Oh, all right. So Minnie, just so you know that when you're in the lobby, nobody's going to be able to hear you. All right. So this particular photo I used in the magazine once, several years ago. But I love this picture because, well, all the colors in the blue, right? It does kind of remind me of the life that goes on even though it's winter, because of the pine trees, right? Those are the trees that remind us that the nature is still there because they're still green, although they are dormant as well. And underneath all that snow, right? And so the reason why I chose this picture to share was that's one of the reasons why I like conifers, is because they remind us in the dead of winter that life is still there, that nature is still there. Yeah, that's why I chose this one.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, thanks for reminding me that you can't hear me when I'm down there. But okay, I'll move this down. Yeah, there's a lot going on beneath the snow. And this quote, I think I'll just keep us both up, and this is one of my favorite Rumi quotes about the garden. Don't think the garden loses its ecstasy in winter. It's quiet, but the roots down there are riotous. So, maybe physically the roots aren't growing a lot, but there's all the energy of the plants go into the roots in the wintertime. Mm-hmm. As I studied herbology, we learned that spring was the best time. The energy is highest in those leaf tips, those brand new leaves. So if you're going to gather medicine from a plant and you're going to use the leaves, you're going to get it in the spring or early summer. Mm-hmm. If it's flowers, you're going to go summer into that fall time. And then in the winter, the roots would be the strongest. So even like the energy before a plant bursts out, like if you're going to harvest dandelion root, mm-hmm. do it in early spring, right when you see those little tiny buds of the leaves and the little buds of the flowers come out. That's going to be the strongest time the roots have energy, because after that it's putting all the energy into blooming the flower and creating the seeds. Mm-hmm. So energetically may be different than what it looks like physically to the scientist. Mm-hmm. But that's how the energy cycle moves through the plants. So
I get so many thoughts going through my head right now. I don't know which one to grab. Okay, so there is a plant that a lot of people know about, but certain Native American people use it medicinally, mm-hmm. and that is milkweed. Mm-hmm. Milkweed. And so I grew up with my mom saying, okay, it's time to go pick milkweed, right? And literally it's in the early spring when the leaves are just really young. Yeah. And before it starts to create the buds. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's the best time. And the only time we're supposed to harvest. Right. And then there's another plant called blue top. I don't know the herbology name for it. That's what we called it, was blue top, because it's got little blue flowers. So, and that particular plant, you only harvest the roots in the fall
Hmm.
because it helps with like colds and flu and that sort of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's only a certain time of the year that you're supposed to go and take some of the roots. Not all the roots, because you're supposed to leave some so
Right.
it takes
Right.
the hand, right?
Huh.
And then also what you said about science, right? Is I
Mm-hmm.
think that's the difference between when we're the Kairos time and the Chronos time. The Kairos time is when nature tells us it's time for something,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rather than looking at the calendar or the scientific kind of method of figuring those things out, because nature will tell us long before the mathematics or the science of it catches up to it. Does that make sense? What I just said?
Always.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's so much like the nature forest therapy walks that I take. Like we always intuitively knew we felt good when we were out in nature. But
Mhm.
now the scientists are proving it with their tests and their graphs and their charts that there is a health improvement to our bodies.
Mhm.
But we already knew we could go if we wanted to go relax and wind down, go take a walk, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
To clear your mind,
clear your mind, right?
take a walk, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, this one, I found this little quote here. Um, Deep within the winter forest, among the snowdrifts wide, you can find a magic place where all the fairies hide.
Oh my gosh, we got to do this one. So, just a little training here. On the
Mhm.
picture down in the lobby, if you kind of hover over it, you can give it a solo. You'll see a little
Oh,
cursing.
yeah.
Yeah, because this
And
is a
you can
good
hear us now.
one. They can still hear us. Yes.
All right, that's how I can do it. Yay. I knew there was a way.
Don't you
Isn't
just
that,
want to take that path and walk down that path?
isn't that, and you can see all the little magic little hidey hoes,
Yeah.
places.
So
Yeah.
deep within the winter forest, among the snowdrift wide, you can find a magic place where the fairies hide.
Yep.
Oh my God. Okay, so this might be a good time to ask that question about inviting the fairies in to your home in the winter.
Well,
You can take this off from solo.
okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Um, well, I have some opinions on that.
Yeah.
Although I did do some research, and here, let me take this one down and put this one out as I drive here. I did some research because in the Victorian times, they believed that bringing a branch of evergreen or holly into your home provided a safe place for the fairies to be in your home if you chose to bring them in the winter. But then you could invite some mischievousness into your house in the winter if you did that. And that's kind of a Victorian era
Yeah.
look at it. But for me, the only time I've ever seen or experienced the nature spirits in my house is around my houseplants.
Mm-hmm.
And that's especially when they're grouped together. It was when they were in a good grouping,
Yeah.
that they would choose perhaps to come in. I never, said one way or the other,
Right.
whether they needed, because they're not getting cold, guys. They don't care about the temperature. We have to think they're not human.
Right.
And we think they don't have anything to do, maybe, but they do. They have a lot to do. I did find this wonderful quote about fairies rule the winter season. And it's because the ice and snow is so shiny and sparkly. They love shiny, sparkly stuff.
Yeah.
And another one said the fairies usually sleep during the day and they come out at night. And this makes the winter season perfect for them because there's more hours of darkness. So, they're out playing in the winter light. You think about like the moonlight that we had with all the great full moon we had last month. And, you know, the other place I saw it, they play with the water in the streams and create all those beautiful ice sculptures and, you know, art. So they've got stuff to do. You know, the one they, you know, it's more the earth elementals, the, you know, the ones hanging out on the surface of the land, or and the air and water, they're all playing together. There's a whole lot. There's a whole lot going on. So,
well, when you think about this, right, is just because it's winter here in the northern hemisphere,
right,
it's summer in the southern hemisphere.
Right. So there's the cycles, and there's always the cycles found in nature. But you know, the individual nature spirits for those plants, like my rosebush has its own nature spirit, and that rosebush is dormant above ground right now. But there's still roots to tend to. There's still the grand plan. And Michelle Small-Wright, who's from Perelandra, she works with the nature spirits, and she speaks with the nature spirits and has done a lot of books. And she says the season for growing really starts at the fall equinox, because that's when the seeds are formed. And then at the winter solstice is when the grand design, the grand plan is being made. So if you want to work in co-creation with the nature spirits, this time of year is all about garden planning and organizing. And, you know, if there's something that you would like to call into your garden, this is the perfect time to do that,
right? Because
they're building the structure. So back to that rose plant, I would love to see more blossoms on that rose, you know, and make sure it's really happy here in its new home in Colorado. I just planted it last summer. It's a beautiful red rose, and so I can ask the nature spirits for seeing abundant blooms on this rose, and all season long. Right. You know, not just for a little bit in June, but all season long. And it did bloom through September for me last year, October, even before the first frost. So, you know, and again, these are requests. This is not a demand. We never demand from a nature spirit. But you can put your requests, and if you have a lot of good energy and excitement around it, they're going to really pick up on that too.
Right. And so we even have nature spirits, right, that are with the animals.
Oh, definitely.
And so, and we know that there's some animals that hibernate.
There's
others that don't, even in the coldest weather.
Yes.
And so their nature spirits are with them all the time.
Right. And I want to show the picture you found, Neshi, because this artist is so amazing.
No, did you take any look anywhere? She's got so much out there.
Let me give it a solo here. Okay. Yay.
I saw this one and thought, oh, we got to use this one, because it shows the gnomes, right?
Yes.
Eating a bear.
Right.
Who is hibernating.
Right. And they've got like sweets. There's
candy, and they have some sort of lights or something with them too. And a shovel. And so they made a hole, created a hole, and they're giving this animal some treats. Right? Yep. So, this particular artist, she's Russian-based, Kornochia. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. She's a graphic illustrator that focuses her work around the fantastical and tragic stories that fairy tales offer, it says.
Right. I would love to know this story.
Yeah, really.
Now, Rob in the chat room is saying fairies wear coats.
Well, yes, according to this particular picture, they do.
Yes. And for me, I'll just say for me, fairies never look like the pictures here. They're when I see a nature spirit fairy, they're just balls of light. But some people see them like fully dressed elves and little gnome creatures like this, and they come to us and show us an image that we will feel most comfortable with. So that's, so for this artist, this was the way they wanted to show themselves and that she wanted to portray.
You know how we're always saying that humans, us two-leggeds, we're not separate from nature, that we are part of nature, right? So that would also imply that we also have elementals with us all the time.
We
right?
have elementals inside us in our physical body, all four of the air, water, fire, and earth elementals. Yes.
And they hibernate.
I had a reading one time with somebody, and he was like assessing my inner energies or whatever. He's got, you got all these beings inside of you, and he was thinking they were like bad. And I'm like, no, those are my elementals that I work with all the time. They're supposed to be there. They're good, but he was like, you have so many. And it's like, cause I work with them and I invite them in, so just being aware of they're called body elementals. That's a whole nother show. Yeah.
Can we do that one too?
Sure.
I want to do that one too.
Sure. We can. Yeah. So
because I think that we talk about us not being separate from, but how do we actually bring that deeper into our awareness, right? And I think the show that we're doing today is just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
Right.
That everything that has been created it has a life force, and anything with a life force has an elemental associated with it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
I know that when we first started the conversation, when we were just chatting about what should we talk about this month, we started talking about hibernation, winter, and the fairies. And at first it was kind of like we're kind of joking around about it, because we get that question quite often about where do the fairies go,
Right.
And we want to make sure that they're taken care of.
Because they might get cold.
Get cold. They might get hungry.
Yeah, hungry, bored. Yeah.
And so for those elementals, those nature spirits who are attached to animals or plants who really do go dormant, right? That they're still alive, right. But their life force is being utilized in a different part of their body. So, for instance, because everybody associates hibernating with the bears, right?
Right.
So, with the elemental that's with a bear, what would that kind of look like for our visual audience?
Well, like those little gnomes, like feeding him treats. They're giving him little gifts. They're still caring, tending that creature. They're still taking care of the physical body of the bear. The systems, the circulatory, it's all still working, and they're just not as active. Right.
Yeah.
But also, I thought about this as I was falling asleep last night, because they were giving me. There's a lot of gestation period like happening when they hibernate.
Yes.
They're growing their seed,
Yep.
And so that energy is going into the babies that
That's
are coming.
Right.
So
it's all about creation, all that creative energy, right?
So yeah, they reminded me of that last night. So there's a lot. It's again, a lot going on beneath the surface. Now I did find this. I want to maybe jump back a little to a physical thing.
Okay.
But I thought it was fascinating because I did not know about it. Let me give it a solo here.
Yeah, easier.
called the subnivean zone. And what happens when we have snowpack on the ground, and how the little critters, like how do the mice and the voles and insects, how do they survive?
Uh-huh.
And it's really good if they have snowpack. They got it made, because they show, if it's 0 degrees on the surface
Mhm.
of the snowpack, and then about about 6-8 inches, they've got a 34 degrees, and then the snowpack's around 32. If you go even deeper, if you go down below frost line,
Mhm.
the Earth is a constant 55 degrees.
Right. Geothermal.
Geothermal, right. But here they've got their own kind of little geothermal insulation pack from the snow. And if you've ever seen, I've seen these because I've been out with Rosie walking, that there's like, you can see kind of the tops of little tunnels and things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the little mice and voles run through. Mm-hmm. And this subnivean zone also creates this kind of microclimate for, there'll be plants that'll still be growing. I have found moss totally alive underneath the snow.
Wow.
And that's what they eat. They eat of course, they eat the bark on the trees, but they eat these little plants. And then there's also insects in those plants. So in an environment where there's a lot of snowpack, there's a lot alive still beneath.
Okay. And so that's why you see fox when they're hunting in the wintertime. You see them jumping up and then jumping down into the snow.
Exactly.
Right.
They're listening.
The rodents.
Right. Your owl you talked about in your last show.
Yeah.
He's got really good hearing, and he can hear them running.
Mm-hmm.
Through. And I've had Rosie even know that something's going on, because she'll go dig it in the snow for something. But yeah, that's how they find the critters, is by listening to their movement. So there's a lot going on, beneath the surface.
Wow. So maybe take this one off from Solo.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Well, that raises so many other questions, really, that, again, just because we're not seeing something happening on the surface doesn't mean there's a whole lot going on below the frost line, below the snowpack line, below, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And what's going on beneath the frozen lake? The fish, the frogs. We talked about frogs last year too. I love that. What did I wrote down something from you. Frogs look deep beneath the surface. That was a message from your show.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I love how they segue together.
We didn't even
Star Nation shows always do that.
Yeah.
So we're looking.
We sat there and said, we're going to do this and make sure it dovetails. It just happens.
Owl, frog. Yeah. But yeah, what's going on beneath? I mean, we were at a mountain lake 2 days ago. We took my sister-in-law up to the Rocky Mountain National Park, and the lake we saw the moose in this summer was solid frozen ice. Now you could walk across it.
Oh wow!
But you know how much was living there in the summer in that lake? The fish, the dragonflies, the plants.
Yeah.
That's all still
there
beneath the surface.
That's right. Wow. Can you bring up Rob's comment?
The hypothermia or the wear boots?
Hypothermia, please.
Okay, that's why I got to hit that.
There you go.
Here, let me put this one down. We don't have so much going on.
So he says a well-known first aid for hypothermia is to bury someone in the snow, allowing them to breathe, of course.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense, though. And that's one of the reasons why it's a constant temperature, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I want to add something to that, because I've taken my wilderness first aid course. So I don't want people just burying them in the snow. Yeah. They need to be, waterproof, like a tarp or something first before you you don't want the direct snow on contact with skin at all.
Mm-hmm.
That would be worse. But yeah, a layer of insulation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another question that came up with the animals that live in that subterranean level there between underneath the snow. And the air circulation comes through because of the grasses and the trees, because as the grass moves in the wind, it creates a little opening.
Mm-hmm.
So like a little straw kind of, you know. So there's plenty of oxygen down there for them too, which is kind of cool. But like what Rob said about helping them make sure they can breathe. Yeah. But it's like an igloo. It's like creating that igloo space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And nature, you know, where did they learn that from? Looking at nature, right?
Exactly.
If the animals can survive this way, then we can too,
right,
in this harsh climate. So
exactly. You can take Rob's comment down because
that's so good practice for me too. Okay. Oh, my neighbor Stephanie Williams is here. She found us. Yay.
She says, I finally have internet again.
Yeah.
Stephanie.
And Rob says, sounds like your training is more in-depth than the Boy Scout handbook. Yeah. It was pretty intense, 2 days. And something as a nature and forest therapy guide I have to do like every 2 years is get recertified in that. So
that's good though. You know?
Yeah.
You know, make sure you put that on your information too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure that it'll be helpful for some people who might be more city dwellers, that they're going out with somebody who has experience.
Right. So I had another photo, Neshi, which this is just funny because of what we were just talking about, but I picked this one way before I knew what your cards were going to be drawn for the last
And it's the same owl.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Look what she's bringing it light is what she's bringing. She's bringing the owl.
Can you give it a solo so we can really see? Thank you. Oh my God, that is a great picture.
Isn't that fun? I found that after your artist that you brought up with the gnomes feeding the bear. It was just kind of a link. It wasn't this. I thought it was the same artist at first, but it was someone different. And yeah. So.
Wow. I love that picture.
I do too.
There's something about, for me, there's something about the pine trees, the conifers, when they have that much snow on them and they're kind of droopy. And you know, if you go underneath it, you know, it's a whole nother world under there, right? Yeah.
It is. And it's insulated from the snow. A lot of birds. Well, I have a nest of 5 squirrels that live in our evergreen tree right next to the house. Yeah. And yeah, they've got a really nice nest. I know they have like half of my my filler for my planters up in their nest because they take the cocoa.
Oh, look, this nice lady. Look what she left us.
Right. And then they pulled apart a pillow on the, you know, so they've got stuffing. It's got to be a really nice coat. It's huge. It's really nice nest. But they chose the evergreen tree, right? Because it's more wind block and more insulated. So, yeah.
That's too funny. They have a high-rise condo too.
Exactly. It's off the second story window, so Rosie can almost look right in the nest. So
you know, that's actually a really good segue a little bit to what's the difference between hibernation and being in a sleep? Because there's what is that called? It's a T word. Torpor.
Yeah.
Because there is a difference, right? There is a difference between
torpid, I think it is.
Yeah, torpid and true hibernation.
Right. Because I had a torpid hummingbird once stuck to my hummingbird feeder. I left my hummingbird feeder out too late. You're supposed to take him in on Labor Day, no matter what the temperature is outside. And I left it out because we had a warm fall. And I looked out there after we had a really cold night, and I looked out there, there's a hummingbird, and he wasn't moving. And he was a little attached to the perch.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is this? And so I called the nature rescue places, you know, the bird rescue, and asked, and boy, they chewed me out about leaving my feeder out that long. But they said that it's torpid and I should go out and pry it off. It's in a semi, you know, conscious state.
Mm-hmm.
Pry it off and I put it in a box. They said, bring it in a place and we'll slowly warm it up. And then it will be able to fly and leave. Mm-hmm. So I'm in the log home at that time. So I'm trying to figure out if I bring it in the house, in the main room, then we've got 2.5 stories of hummingbird could be flying around. So what room do I put this in that I can catch the hummingbird if it starts moving before I, you know, unless I watch it all day and I think I had to go somewhere. So I got the idea to put it in I had a hot tub room at that time that was attached to the house that had an exterior door. So I put it on in a shoebox. It was so cute, but it was not, it looked dead. I mean, it didn't look alive, but its little eyes were moving. So I knew it was. Mm-hmm. And it took about 3 hours and it was, you know, up sitting on the side of the box when I went down to check on it. So I just put that outside and then it was gone. But yeah, so a little warmth, I know, brings them back.
Right, right.
But it wasn't all the way gone. And obviously, you know, it was trying to eat stuff.
Oh God. And so their nature spirit that's with them. Yeah, because you could I mean, I'm sure you did this, is you called on the nature spirits to help with this, right? Yeah.
Well, definitely the hummingbird, Dave, was like, what do I do? What do I do here? Mm-hmm. And knowledgeable people about birds. Yeah. But the hibernation, let's go back to that.
Yeah. Well, you raised a really good point, you know, that many of us probably don't do the full picture here, is that many of the animals and also plants that go dormant, mm-hmm. is that many of them are actually gestating. I mean, bears are gestating during that time frame. And so they're going through a creation process. And that's where a lot of their energy is going to, is that creation process.
Right. Yeah. And the same, you know, the seed underground, the seed that fell off the milkweed pod from last fall.
Yeah.
You know, it's in the ground, and it, you know, the energy, it's just waiting for those temperatures to shift so that it can really burst open. But the energy's in that seed already. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just waiting to burst through that coating. So there's a lot of creation happening right now. In the northern hemisphere.
Yeah. Now, what I was going to say, and I'm going to say it again, is just because we, the two-leggeds, don't see what's going on the surface doesn't mean there's a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of things going on below the surface.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Rob said, only cold-blooded animals hibernate. Yes. Thank you for that. That's right.
We got to show his next one now, too.
Oh, let's go up here. I got torpid until I go torpid until I hear something. Yeah. That's a choice. You
I didn't know you were cold-blooded.
Oh, gosh.
Stephanie asking you a very interesting question.
Yeah. Am I planning to do a Master Mountain Gardener certification? I don't know, Stephanie. I haven't done Master Gardener because that's a lot of science and not a lot of the way I garden. So I chose not to do it in Michigan. I know, you know, I was a botany major at Michigan State and floriculture, and I've studied a lot, and I know that science behind growing, but what I do is beyond science, and so yeah, it's I'd rather take an elemental gardening class than than a master. But
she'd rather teach an elemental gardening class.
Yeah, there you go. But there is a whole new learning curve here on the mountains, definitely, and especially with the climate and the way the cycles and the rain, and it's really different. So I'm learning that one.
Stephanie is in Colorado.
Yeah, she's my neighbor.
Yeah. No, Stephanie Williams.
Oh, Stephanie Williams. Yes. Oh gosh, I thought I was thinking I have a Stephanie. Yeah. Okay, but Stephanie is in Colorado. Yes.
Yeah. She's south of you, but she's still in Colorado. And so, just getting used to that. Now, bringing this back around to nature spirits in the different climate zones. Would that be very similar to us two-leggeds living in different time zones, different hemispheres, right? Because if nature spirits are connected to and helping with all life forms, then they're in every region, every layer, and
Oh yeah, there's nature spirits out on the Sahara Desert, any place where there's like you said, a living life form, life force energy.
Right.
They're working with them. I mean, there's other, stone beings and there other pieces like that. But yeah, the weather is going to be different, and the elementals that work with that weather. But you always have the four big ones: the air, water, fire, and earth. You always have those categories wherever you are. Some stronger than others. The earth elementals are going to be stronger. In a desert environment, there's a lot of earth happening there. And in a rainforest, we've got a lot of water elementals, working with that. So, and then in the, like I do think, like Sedona in the desert, there's a lot of fire going on too. A lot of heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and this brings us back almost full circle for you and I, is that brings us back to our feng shui training and how we were taught how to balance out those energies in our homes, right? In a space.
Right.
Yeah. Or invite them in, one of the two, balancing them out.
Right. And how we cleared with all those elementals too. We're actually using the assistance of the elementals in space going.
Yes.
You can go there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here we are sitting in January, right? And we're heading up on the next big one is spring equinox.
Right.
So if somebody wanted to learn more about how to work with the elementals, for whether it's their gardens or whether it's for their their projects, whatever it is, what can they do to have better communication, to have more of a relationship?
I would first suggest my book, Spirit Gardens, Rekindling Our Nature Connection, because it's in there. About how to connect with the elementals, with the nature spirits, how to work with them. It's all in there. There's a meditation even in there that I do. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I just asked that question of the fairies. Where do fairies go in the wintertime? This morning, and it's also, it's a co-creative relationship. It's not them and you, but you're working together. Even this morning on my walk with Rosie, they said, "Hey, stop, look at this tree here." and they show me all the buds that are just starting to get fat.
Oh my
and
God.
they see we're not sleeping. We're busy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we got work to do here. These are all going to be the leaves. But you got to stop and pay attention. You got to slow down and pay attention.
Yeah.
And they will come to you if you ask, if you're open.
Right.
And for me, when I started studying feng shui, when you do any of your spiritual work, your spiritual path, that opens you more to working with them as well. Is that your intuition, your mind are opening. I started studying feng shui. I started seeing the nature spirits in my garden.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that really wasn't about what we were doing in feng shui at all, but because I was expanding my mind and my perceptions of space, right, interior, exterior space,
mm-hmm.
then it was revealed to me, in a more physical form. And again, they're going to come in a form that you feel most comfortable with. So for me, they first came as movement, like a leaf or something would move, and it would almost be, it could have been a frog hopping through there, or it could have been something else. But I would just dive into the garden to see if I could find a frog, because if I couldn't find it, then I knew it was the nature. You know what I mean? You're always trying to prove it to yourself. You know, your mind needs that validation that this isn't crazy, that this really happened.
I actually saw that.
So whenever that would happen, and it's usually you're always for me, out of the peripheral when they first show. But now I see them straight on. I've seen them I'm flying in airplanes, I'm looking out the window, and out on the other side of the window are all these nature spirits like dancing. They're usually like so excited. Oh, she's going to Bali. This is so cool. You know, it's usually when I'm traveling and they're all excited. I swear, I don't know if they're going with me or what they're doing, but they're like little squiggles of light. See, I don't see the fairies, the Disney fairies, you know. I don't see them. I don't see them dressed in clothes or boots or anything.
They're all different sizes and colors.
Yeah.
You know,
right, but they kind of squiggle. And I remember when I was young, even when I would be in college taking notes, I was constantly squiggling that design on the sides of my notes.
Oh.
So then they were talking to me then, you know, look for this, and it was just like a little dot and squiggles, you know, like I don't want to say it's like a tiny little sperm, but it's kind of like that. Creation.
and have it without it.
Right.
That's so
right. But now if I'm in a place in nature that I really sense them, I feel like it's really thick, I will just look across with my soft eyes into the sky or just on the landscape, and I can see all that golden squiggle, like thick and like very, 5 feet thick in front of me. So
you used a term that some of our audience may not know, or maybe they have never heard it, and that's soft eyes.
Yeah.
What are soft eyes?
Oh, well, for me, it's like you're not really trying to see with your physical eyes. You're just relaxing and letting your gaze soften. Sometimes, you can just kind of look down and look up. I don't really know how to describe it. What do you think, Neshi?
So for those of us who have glasses, taking glasses off.
It helps.
Everything is kind of fuzzy.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
And, it's actually kind of a gift, because if you've ever noticed, when I'm doing ceremony or anything like that, I take my glasses off. Because I'm using my inner sight more than I'm using my physical sight. And for me, that's what soft eyes is we're using our inner sight than our physical sight. And that's why we see those things moving on the periphery of our vision, because you're not looking at it straight on. And so some people, what they'll do is kind of gently cross their eyes. So things are just a tad bit out of focus. And so that you're not necessarily using your physical eyes. to see?
Sometimes I found, like, if I say a prayer, or I'm saying some other words at the, like a prayer that's very meaningful to me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that takes. That takes the mind to do that, and so then the eyes can see.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting the mind busy with something else.
Right.
But it's an appropriate prayer for what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it just helps, or it's a prayer that brings me into my heart, because I think in your heart you're going to see and sense more too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was really strong when I took my nature and forest therapy training. I was seeing the elementals everywhere, and nobody else in class was seeing that. And and I remember I mentioned it one day, because we do the sharing circle, and I said there's a really strong pocket of nature spirits over by the picnic table, and everyone's like, well, I was over there, I didn't see anything, and people think you're a little nuts a little bit sometimes, but I don't care. It's what I see, It's just
Well, that just brings up another layer, right? Is that in just about everything we do, there is those that believe in spirit and those that don't. That's on a very wide continuum, and then there's everybody in between,
right.
right? And so when we're talking about nature spirit, sometimes maybe we have to use a little bit different vocabulary for somebody to understand what you're referring to. And for those of us that are awake and have been awake for a really long time, sometimes we become translators,
Mm-hmm.
right? We become translators,
Yep.
and in a way that you do that for the nature spirits. You're a
Right.
two-legged translator for them.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. It's been a very interesting journey with them. Yeah, it has been. And the more I do, the deeper I go, the more I'm connected, and the more they share. So
Right. And so you started out the show with sharing with us when you asked the question about having. And so, did they give you any other information about this particular show? Because they are front and center. It's all about them.
Well, they really wanted you to know it really doesn't, the cold doesn't matter. Like, you're forgetting we're energy, we're not human. We can be wherever we want, we can go where we want, and expand and contract. And they're always telling me there's not a hierarchy either. It's not like the elementals are higher. The elemental of fire is in a higher place than a deva of the oak tree, of the fairy or the gnome, or they're like, no, you humans do that. We don't. We all have a very important job to do, that we joyously do. It's not really a job. It's their life's purpose, what they're here to do. It's what they're made to do, their existence, why they're here. And, a lot of times I hear, stop putting your human qualities onto me. Stop doing that. It's not, yeah.
Oh, that's pretty direct.
Yeah. But the hierarchy thing, they really hate that, when you see it. It's like, okay, well, I just have to explain it this way, but then I'll make sure I tell them there's no hierarchy.
Right. And here's the thing is that they don't come through just the door.
Yeah.
You don't
have to have the window open for them to go back and forth.
They can go through a wall. They go between the space of spaces. So because there's nothing solid in our world, and so what they're doing is they have their own pathways, and so if you leave your door open or a window open or something like that, and you think that that's the only way that they can go in or go out,
You've been watching too much Disney.
Yeah.
You've been watching too much Disney.
Exactly.
I think that was in Thumbelina what they did. Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah. And I know that we're near the top of the hour, but I have to ask this question. Okay. So when we're communicating with and having a relationship with the nature spirits, many times we attach our humanness to things, obviously. So what really, I mean, when we leave them gifts, you know, because they like bright, shiny stuff. So we leave them something like that. Or they like the candy, the sweets, right? Or if you're in Ireland, you leave them whiskey.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So is that all a human interpretation of things, or do they really enjoy us gifting them those items?
Well, your gift means that you notice them and you want to respect them in some way. You want to honor their presence. But it's like, I see you, you know. Even if I don't see you, I know you're here and I want to leave you a gift. It's like like a friend. It's building a relationship. And I think it's the sparkly, shiny stuff in the case. It's like it brings us joy, so it makes our heart open, and especially the candy. We go back to our childhood, and the fun joy piece, and they like that energy because they don't do emotions either. So they're learning from us about emotions. They think that's fascinating. That's a whole nother show too. They love to see emotion in us, but that joy is huge. So shiny, bright, sweets. Yeah. That kind of puts us in a playful place already. So it's an energy exchange, Neshi, more than the physical. It's the energy exchange of what you do. Yeah. Even if you go and you play in the water, you splash. I do this with my fourth. They love that. Oh my gosh! And we saw that in Colorado with all the firefly or the dragonflies that come in, because they'll show their forms as dragonflies sometimes, the air ones, and so you just start playing. They love that. They love to see us in our joy. So
that's another show we have to do.
Yeah, it's
emotional stuff. I have all kinds of questions now about that, but I'll hold it. I'll hold those questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I'm so glad that we decided to take this route for this show and share about and have a conversation about the nature spirits and fairies. Where do the fairies go in the winter? Yeah. And so we can talk about the hibernation and how they're with us all the time.
Right.
They don't go on vacation. They don't go to someplace warm.
They don't have to be warm at all, right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So, so final pieces about what we're up to. I am leading a nature and forest therapy walk, my first one here in Loveland, Colorado, February 9th, and we'll be along the lake edges and working, playing, I should say, with the water elementals and the earth elementals, and of course the trees, the big cottonwoods that grow here. So I'm really excited to be offering that walk, and that's you can link to that through my Facebook page or my website, minniekanzman.com.
Can you type that into the comment?
I can. I'm just going to go ahead, Neshi. What are you doing?
Okay. So what's coming up for me, classes? I know that a whole lot of people in Michigan have been waiting for this to happen. I'm doing a drum making workshop in June 20th, near Hastings, Michigan. And that is, we're going to be making elk and buffalo hide drums. And so that place that we're going to be at is called Edge of the Woods Healing Retreat Center, and it's owned by Lori DeDecker. And so it's out on Star Nation's organization's website at the Academy page. And so if you're interested in that, you can always click on that and register. I do two classes a year now. I try to do one in Michigan and one here in Wisconsin at the Academy here, Star Nation's Academy. So we'll do that one in early summer, June. and then we'll do a fall one here in Wisconsin. So yeah. And then we have other classes coming up with Star Nations Academy. We're doing our online classes. We're getting started. The first one is February 10th with Maureen Mann, and she's going to be teaching about angelic assistance and manifesting, and really covering the self-worth piece of that, and helping us kind of wade through and heal those kinds of things that might be blocking our manifesting. So
sounds good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Thanks for putting that in there. And of course, you know, there's other stuff going on as well. But I'm gonna put the Star Nations organization information in the comments after the show, so you have that. And as a suggestion, Minnie, if you could also put maybe your book cover as a picture in the comments, so that people know what it looks like. You know.
Sure. Yeah. I can do that, and where they can get it. Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, everybody, for being with us today. This is a fun topic to talk about on a winter day. Huh? Okay.
All right. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Everybody who's in the live chat, thank you so much for joining us. And those that are going to be watching the show through the recorded version, thank you so much for making time to do that with us. We appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing you next month for Nature Adventures. And let's take a quick look at the date. Oops, got up the wrong one. The date that we're going to be doing this in February is the 19th.
19th, yep.
Okay. Wait, okay. We're doing the 3rd or 4th Wednesday.
Oh, we're doing the 4th, girl.
Yeah. The 26th.
26. I know. 6 months is odd. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Go have your own nature connection. Until we see you again.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.